This is the fastest way to burnout in your cash practice. What is up, y'all? I'm Dr. Ray Gorman, physical therapist and founder of Engage Movement, a company that aims to help keep great providers in our profession by giving them businesses that fit their lifestyle and blending recurring revenue through virtual offers with their in-person sessions. Today, I want to chat about the number one thing that drove me crazy when I started my cash practice, and it was how acquisition heavy it was, right? So let's think about traditional models of therapy, of rehab, and how they work, where basically there's a pipeline, a medical pipeline. Client goes to a doctor, goes to their physician, they get a referral for PT, they're referred to PT, and that there is such a high volume, a steady flow of that, right? Well, one of the things that I found when I started my cash practice was I had the exact same model, but I didn't have the high volume pipeline. So this was what the client acquisition process kind of felt like, right? It's like business is slow. So you go pound the pavement, you go generate some leads, you go create some interest, you start to get clients in, your schedule books up, you end up having less time for those client acquisition strategies. So you stop doing them, the leads stop flowing in, clients start falling off your schedule, and then the whole cycle repeats, right? I call this the revenue roller coaster, right? We kind of go through this wave of lead gen activities, then we service, and then lead flow drops because we're servicing, and we stay in this constant cycle over and over and over again. It drove me crazy. I was like, I don't want to go find clients all the time. I want to find a group of people that I can continue working with. But that model didn't exist then. I had to create it, right? So again, let's talk about why this exists, how the consumer knows physical therapy to exist, rehab to exist. When a client comes in, they represent a predictable amount of revenue. The goal of the model is get that client better, get them out of pain, and they stop coming. Like I said in the beginning, the business is sustained through finding new clients, constant acquisition. But remember, in traditional models, there's that pipeline. Now, this is, in my opinion, not really sustainable in the way that I wanted to build my cash business. Because again, what I saw happen was I got clients better, and then I had to wait 2 or 3 years until they had another injury. It drove me freaking crazy. So I found that when I left the traditional model and went into the cash-based realm, I kind of solved the problem for myself, right? I wasn't working as many hours. I was working with the clients that I wanted, but I still didn't have the business designed in the way that really energized me, that was really the type of business that I wanted to build. So I didn't have this name at the time, but this was kind of the first iteration of what is now called the performance provider growth model. This is a model that blends in-person sessions with an asynchronous virtual offer to create recurring revenue in the business and get outcomes that extend beyond the clinic walls. If you are a provider that says, I want to bridge the gap between rehab and performance, I might be a little biased, but this is the best model for it because you actually get to manage performance outside of the clinic. So instead of just this big burst of revenue that comes in with a package sale, or even worse, session by session where it's just dragging out, what the PPGM does is we extend the client life cycle. So we say, okay, we're going to work with you for 10 sessions, but then we're going to program for you with what we call a prescriptive exercise program for maybe the next, 4, 6, 9, 12 months. I had clients that were on my roster for years just because they wanted access to me. They wanted programming from me. What this is able to do for us is we're able to shift the outcome from get out of pain to return to activity, return to performance. What is the actual goal? We have to shift the client away from thinking the end result is getting out of pain. That is not a suitable goal for this type of model. We want to get them back to something that is super meaningful for them. What ends up happening is the business model switches from an acquisition heavy business where you have to constantly acquire clients to a retention heavy business where you finally have a way where clients don't just fall off your schedule and then you have no way to generate revenue from them. So you might be asking, like, how does that all work? Let me recap this here. The performance provider growth model is kind of two parts, right? So everybody thinks that like we bash on the in-person session. No, the in-person session is super valuable. Like it is probably the most valuable part of the journey at some points in the client journey, especially in the beginning. But later on, I think the prescriptive exercise program actually becomes the most valuable piece to get that full, complete outcome. So the whole goal of the PPGM is really just to say we need an appropriate service medium to get the client to the phase where the next one becomes appropriate. So for me, I started most of my clients in a blended offer right from the start because I'm super comfortable with the online side, right? So we start with that in-person component. We layer in what we call a prescriptive exercise program. It is not a telehealth visit. It is a program that is delivered to the client, managed by the PT. There is no direct trade for time. So what that does is that creates a layer of recurring revenue in the business. You can get $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in recurring revenue in the business, where instead of your bottom line being zero, your bottom line now goes to $5,000. What this model aims to do is it aims to make clients less dependent on the in-person sessions and more independent with the PEP. So again, I'm shifting them away from high value but time and energy intensive in-person sessions to high value but low energy intensive outcome oriented measure, what I call the prescriptive exercise program. So what would happen in your business? This is what happened in my business. We almost doubled the lifetime value of the client, right? Because if I have a client that comes in and let's say that I sell them a package of 10 sessions for, let's just say $200 a session, $2,000. Well, what our model allows you to do is it says, hey, like, what if you sold this person a prescriptive exercise program for $300 a month for 6 months? That'd be an additional $1,800 in revenue. So you'd be almost double lifetime value. Your life will be so much easier if you can double the lifetime value of your clients and do it in a way that isn't just raising your prices. That's what I want you guys to get at here. You don't have to raise your prices. You don't have to hire more people to scale your business. You can also scale the business through a mechanism of process. That's what I really wanted to do with the PPGM. So now, because your lifetime value is double, you don't have to acquire the same amount of clients. You could acquire the same amount of clients and make double the amount of money, or you could cut your acquisition in half and make the same amount of money. What I want to leave y'all with is whatever you do, take this with you. Recurring revenue is a freaking cheat code in your business. Nothing will alleviate your stress, the financial stress that you have in your business. Nothing will alleviate that more than when you know next month all of the bills are covered from recurring revenue. And especially when you go into a high profit PT model like the PPGM, we want our providers taking home most of their revenue, not putting it towards these crazy expenses like traditional models, or even like people are teaching you how to scale cash-based businesses with a ton of staff, with a ton of overhead. That is not the model that we kind of want to implement for you. So if that is what you are looking for, if that is what you are looking to do, if that's what you feel like is missing in your PT journey, I want you to know that there are answers out there for you. If this resonates with you, go ahead and book a call below. Watch some more videos. Make sure you subscribe. You can always reach out to me on Instagram at RayGormanDPT. And if you want to just generally learn more about what we do, head over to engagemovement.com. All right, y'all. Hope this was helpful. Go figure out how to implement recurring revenue in your business. I promise your life will be easier. See y'all in the next one.